This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass.
This is my idol. You're going to acknowledge me.
Welcome to the Mailbag for this week in WWE. With everything going on, it's going to be interesting to hear what all of our listeners have to say, and this shouldn't be too long of a show. We don't have the usual influx of email and voicemail, but we do have a few, and we're going to get to those. So if you like the long mailbags, well, you can help contribute to that and get your voice on the show by calling us at 518-952-0247. Or, of course, you can email us at realwwepodcast@gmail.com, or you can send a voicemail via email. So really anywhere, any one of those methods works for us. But let's jump right into our very first email. And it wouldn't be the Mailbag Show without Randy starting off the show. So, Randy, the patron, says, okay, the draft is finally over, but let me tell you what should not be over. Charlotte and Bianca Belair. Man, did these women put on a great match. Bianca, I agree, best NXT call-up. She's killing it. But my question is, what are they going to do with her? Because I don't think she's going to win the SmackDown title, so maybe Raw? Also, did you see the Raw Talk draft? My girl Liv is on Mondays. So happy. Hope they use her right. Also split up Nox and Shotzi and Natalya and Tamina. Do you think there are planning big things for those women? I'm getting excited again. Somebody wake me up. Am I dreaming? That's it for this week. Randy. Well, Randy, you're not dreaming, my friend. When WWE splits up a tag team, you would like to believe that the reasons behind splitting up that tag team is that they have some kind of singles run for one or both of those individuals. You would like to believe that. You would hope that is the case. But unfortunately, Randy, I don't have a whole lot of recent history that would prove this to get you super excited. You want a couple of examples? Why don't we look no further than the Iconics that were broken up for absolutely no reason? Neither had a successful run as a singles star. Not that WWE put in a whole lot of effort either. So there's one. The Hurt Business. There's another example where they break the group up, that tag team really, and they decide to do nothing with them. Another example, Zelina Vega's group that went nowhere with Austin Theory and Andrade. That went nowhere, right? So they have, unfortunately, a recent history of doing nothing with split up teams when it should be because they have a plan in place for those individuals, right? Why would you do it otherwise? The tag team divisions on both brands and on the women's side are thin. So what would benefit you to reducing that depth even further if you didn't have an idea in your mind of at least doing something better with them in a singles role? So, yes, Randy, I know that you're getting your hopes up, and I hope they do something with those women, but I have doubts, and with good reason. History is not on the side of WWE on this one. And interestingly, this is credit to CBS Sports here for pointing this out, and I missed it, and maybe some of you did too. Right now, WWE does not have a women's tag team division. Outside of the champions, outside of Nikki ASH and Rhea, they broke up every other team. Tegan Nox and Shotzi Blackheart, gone, right? We have Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax, gone. So we have Tamina and Natalya, gone. Who's left? So Nikki ASH and Rhea Ripley right now are running unopposed to anyone. Honestly, at this point, they should just abolish the women's tag team division. If you're not going to take it seriously, and it's just a sideshow, and it's a lot more often than not just forgotten, just do away with it then. Just don't have it on the roster. Don't put it on a show when you're not going to give it the respect that it deserves. I mean, I didn't expect to go on a rant about the women's tag team championships, but this sort of warrants it. I mean, Sure, they could pull some tag teams out of their backside, right? For Raw and SmackDown, all of a sudden these two women align for no reason, and they just go on a hot streak, and then they break up a few months later, where there's no real true tag teams. Even Nikki and Rhea are not a true tag team. They were singles competitors that got together by happenstance, and now they're the women's tag team champions, running unopposed with nobody else in the division. I can't even remember the last time, if ever, that's ever happened with any championship to my knowledge. It's embarrassing. It's insulting to the women's division. It feels like a consolation prize. It feels like a good little pat on the head for the women. It does not feel like WWE has ever taken this seriously, and now more than ever. I mean, Vince has always valued his single stars many times over the tag team stars that are in his organization, and this is no different. This is, guys, I bet you didn't know that. Or maybe you did. Maybe I'm late to the party here. So, wow. Okay, Randy, let's get back to your message here. Bianca Belair. Yeah, look, we all have seen a piece of what she can do now. As great as she has been, her best days are still in front of her. She is young, she's athletic, she's charismatic, she's caught on, she's been an amazing call-up. As I stand by it too, yeah, she is the best NXT call-up ever. So as far as what they're going to do with her, look, here's the deal. When looking at the women that were drafted to Raw, there were 14. Bianca, Rhea Ripley, Nikki, Becky, Alexa, Carmella, Nia, Zelina Vega, Doudrop, Dana Brooke, Liv Morgan, Mia Yim, Tamina, and Tegan Nox. So who could Bianca work with in that division? Well, really any of them. Of course, when you look at the lineup here, the stars that stand out that Bianca hasn't really gone one-on-one with yet, Rhea, at least on the main roster, Rhea Ripley and Bianca. You could do Alexa Bliss and Bianca if they get Alexa Bliss a little bit hotter. And once she returns, and we're hearing rumors of a character alteration or evolution or something, as Bliss is out for a little while. I mean, of course, you have your subpar mid-card heels of Carmella. Unfortunately, Zelina Vega is kind of the lower tier of the mid-card for the women. She's like a top low tier or a low mid-tier level, especially considering she's had one victory since she's got back to the WWE after she was let go. You have, I mean, of course, Mia Yim, Tamina, Tegan Nox. So Bianca and Becky will probably feud for a while. Bianca and Rhea Ripley will be fun. And then Bianca and Alexa Bliss. That's who I'm looking at right now. All righty. Well, thank you so much, Randy. I hope all is well with you on your end. And I am also rooting for Liv. I think everybody has that soft spot in their heart for Liv Morgan. And it's just, you'd assume a matter of time before they finally give Liv her opportunity. Or the fans just get so fed up, maybe they force it earlier. But Liv Morgan is one of those kind of sympathetic baby faces right now. That she's been there for a while. You know that she's long overdue for a run, and perhaps they'll give it to her. I don't see why not. Next, let's get to the DJ booth with none other than Mr. DJ Kuzmo. All right, let's see what Mr. DJ Kuzmo has to say. How'd you like that? A little bit of intro music. It's not exactly club music. I got to say, I did some searching around. It's not easy to find royalty-free music that doesn't cost an arm and a leg. So you got some kind of generic rock music, DJ. It's better than nothing. So I'm not sure what kind of music you actually play, but my guess is not that. However, it's the thought and effort that counts, right? That's what my mom and dad always told me. Okay, let's get to Mr. DJ. And he says, hey, Matt and WWE AEW podcast fam. This is DJ Kuzmo back at it again on your Mailbag show. First and foremost, quick shout out to you, Matt, and the gardener, a.k.a. Michael Gross, for giving me ideas on my segment on the Mailbag. I really like In the DJ Booth with DJ Kuzmo, and I also like Kuzmo's Corner. I've decided after a long deliberating process, I'll go with DJ Booth, In the DJ Booth with DJ Kuzmo. So, ladies and gentlemen, I give you this segment, In the DJ Booth with DJ Kuzmo. Well, DJ, I didn't even read your email, and I just was kind of hoping that you'd choose this, and luckily you did. So let's see what you got to say this week. All right, the WWE Draft. Once again, just like every year since the return of the brand split, we have a change in the overall landscape of WWE. But if you have not lived under a rock, have read the fine print, or have heard it being announced constantly during the past episode of Raw that the draft goes into full effect on October 22nd, I would say this is a lazy excuse to have for the next 2 weeks of wrestlers from Raw appear on SmackDown and wrestlers from SmackDown appear on Raw. And for those from NXT 2.0 that were drafted to remain on NXT until that magical date of October 22nd, right after the biggest, quote unquote, pay-per-views to happen in Saudi Arabia. I digress. Once again, Raw officially won the WWE Draft by getting all of the biggest names except for Roman, Brock, Bayley, Asuka, Elias, and G-Man's favorite wrestler, Eva Marie. Remember these names because I will come back to them very shortly. Now, I want to get to 5 picks from this draft that I like, which made sense, and 5 picks from this draft that I disliked, which made no sense. Okay, here we go. Top 5 solid picks I liked. Bianca Belair to Raw. Does anybody remember that Bianca was once on the Raw roster last year when she came up from NXT? She was mostly backstage because she creative didn't have anything for her. However, once she got drafted to SmackDown, Bianca slowly started to appear regularly on TV. And then, of course, she had her big moment at the Royal Rumble when she won it and then challenged Sasha Banks for the SmackDown Women's Championship at WrestleMania. DJ, quick pause there. Yes, I remember. The first images I have of of Bianca on Raw were her aligning herself with the Street Profits during the whole poison angle. I believe it was Zelina Vega who poisoned Montez Ford, and it was proven. Remember that? Yeah, that was weird, right? So that's the first thing I remember from her on the main roster. But, okay. Quick side note. I know that this was mentioned before constantly on the pod, but can WWE Creative do away with the pointing to the WrestleMania sign? It's just so unnecessary and eye-rolling to see this crap every single year, but I digress. Well, DJ, yeah, you're about 4 months early, but don't worry, it'll happen inevitably. Even Drew McIntyre said that, in his promos that after he wins, he's going to point to the sign because that's what we always do, right? He did kind of allude to the fact that that's just what we do, which is bizarre. It's weird. It just adds to the feeling of control and micromanagement of WWE, and it chips away little by little, among many other things, of the feeling that anything could happen at any time. And that's supposed to be the feeling I get when I watch Raw. And when I see that kind of stuff that's so predictable and controlled, it takes me out of the moment knowing that they're told to do that for like a photo op, right? Okay. Let's continue. Don't worry, DJ. We got a lot of time to complain about it. Okay. Anyway, Bianca wins the SmackDown Women's title, and the rest is history until we get to SummerSlam with the egregious moment of Bianca losing her title to you-know-who. With that being said, I like this pick of Bianca to Raw. Bianca, at this point of her main roster career, is definitely a main eventer, and SmackDown has done a great job in grooming her for this role. Agreed. Once the dust is settled and we get to the infamous October 22nd date, we should see a clear path for Bianca to eventually become the Raw Women's Champion. Yes. There will be a time that probably it shouldn't take too long for Bianca to become champion, although I say this every year, and I'm not bragging. I'm just bringing the attention to it because it took me a while to catch on to this. As we get deeper into the year, and we start to look at the calendar turning over to 2022, be on the lookout for a lot of heel champions. The rule of thumb is you want baby faces to chase those heels into big pay-per-views so that they can overcome, and especially at WrestleMania. So as we get deeper into the year, I would expect more heel champions. That said, to your point about Bianca, she may not get it back until WrestleMania. She really may not. So I know that that's 6 months away that we're talking about now, but I think it's plausible we don't see her as champion for 6 months. I don't know if I would advise that because fans love her and she is very gravitating on the screen. I don't mean in a, ooh, she's so sexy way. I mean, and she's just got the charisma and she's got the delivery and the confidence it's just there. And so maybe they don't wait that long. 6 months is quite a long ways, but we're already halfway to next year's WrestleMania. Isn't that insane? Okay. Big E to Raw. This was pretty much a given since Big E cashed in his Money in the Bank on Bobby Lashley and won his first WWE title. Pretty much once we get to October 22nd and the New Day are no longer with him, we should be able to see a different version of Big E that we've all clamored for a long time. I got to say that Big E being the champion actually brings some excitement to Raw that hasn't been there in a long time. I'm not saying he's on the same level of Cena, but Big E moving to Raw reminded me of when Cena got drafted to Raw for the first time in 2005, and the complete excitement and buzz that he brought to Raw changed the trajectory of what Raw was to where it was heading and to where WWE was heading in the making, at the time John Cena the face of the company. I remember that moment very well, DJ, and it did feel like there was a shift. John Cena was doing such a great job on SmackDown and becoming such a big star. Feuding with Big Show, he beat Big Show in the 2004 WrestleMania 20 for the United States Championship. He was on fire over there. And I remember it was, I think, during the Jericho maybe was doing his talk show, Talk is Jericho, something like that. He was doing a talk show, and I remember the reaction of Chris Jericho, like his mouth hung open. I mean, obviously the planned reaction, but that's the visual I have. It was some segment with Chris Jericho in which John Cena debuted. So that was really cool. He was the WWE champion at the time. And yeah, I'm with you. And the Big E, as far as it making you feel a little more exciting, yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, it does because it's new, right? Anything new will bring some excitement with it. The key is it more than just surface level deep that people are excited, being that it's just a new person with the championship for the first time? Or is there something deeper with Big E that people really love? We're going to find out, because the faster the excitement wears off, the shallower the connection with the audience for that character. So we're going to see. Again, I'm a Big E fan, but I'm with you and everybody else. Like, can we see a Big E that's not just a New Day extension? Please. And we see glimpses of it. Big E can be serious. He can cut a good promo. I don't want him Mr. Serious all the time, turning into, deep, dark, evil Big E. I'm not asking for that. He can still be kind of the easygoing guy, but when he needs to get serious, he needs to get serious. I could do it. And it's just very simple. It's really simple. His in-ring is really good. I mean, I'm obviously would change his finisher. It's not hard to do with a guy that strong. There's a lot of options out there. You could, and you should also have him stop the clapping of New Day Rocks. Like, stop. It's almost like a reflex that he does after he hits his certain sequence of moves, that he goes into that. I don't know if he even knows he's doing it, but get rid of the clapping, because that just reminds people that, oh yeah, you're not really a single star. You're still attached to the New Day. I think you should just stop clapping, change your finish. Stop with your wacky, gyrating, tongue out of your mouth, hip swiveling nonsense. I mean, you can still be fun-loving and do some things. Just stop being a part of the New Day. And you know what? They're on a different brand now. So there's no excuse. That's all. Outside of that, great in-ring performer. Good promo. We've seen he can be serious. He's a reliable guy. He's not going to get the company in trouble. He doesn't do anything that you shouldn't do. So, again, I want to root for Big E. I just despise the New Day so much that until he cuts all ties from them, it's going to be hard for me to fully invest. That's me, right? So I know that's probably, I'm not speaking for a lot of people. It's just me. So, but DJ, thanks for that. Yeah, that's a good point. So, okay, number 3. Drew McIntyre to SmackDown. This was a slam dunk move for SmackDown, given that most likely Finn Balor was moving to Raw and SmackDown needed a top-tier babyface to challenge Roman. We all got tired of seeing Drew in the WWE title picture, and seeing him lose to Bobby Lashley at this year's WrestleMania was a humbling experience for him and a turning point as to where Drew would be heading next in terms of the being in a non-title feud. His feuds with Jinder, Veer, and Shanky were just nonsensical. And all it did was keep Drew far, far away from the WWE Championship. It's some sort of holding pattern. Another quick sidebar. So now we have Drew challenging Big E for the WWE title at Crown Jewel. Okay, I get that now he has an opportunity for the WWE title since Bobby's no longer the champion. And if I'm not mistaken, MVP once said that as long as Bobby's WWE champion, Drew will no longer get another title shot. Yet that is true, DJ. It was actually written into the contract. I say contract loosely. It was part of the stipulations going into the match, their final match. I don't know, it was Hell in a Cell or I think whatever it was. That was their final championship match as long as Bobby's champion. Yes, so that's true. Continuing on here, but why challenge Big E? Firstly, they're both baby faces. Secondly, Drew never earned a title opportunity. Third, this is pretty much a one-off at Crown Jewel. And fourth, if AJ Styles wasn't stuck in a tag team with Omos, Big E versus AJ Styles would have been appealing. You could have had AJ defeat Drew in the good old number one contenders match. DJ, I think you mean contenders. There's no such thing as a number one contenders match. Jeez. And of course, the winner faces Big E at Crown Jewel. But what do I know? I'm not a booker. So, yeah, look, we all know that this is a one-off. How do we know this is a one-off? And there is exactly a 0% chance of Drew McIntyre winning that championship. He's on a brand that already has the Universal Championship. Plus, you have Big E, a newly won champion for the first time that people want to see what this is about. They're interested. They don't want to go back to Drew. It would feel like the same old, same old. And there really is, maybe all year, there hasn't been a match that is this big of a slam dunk. I cannot think of one. I would bet a significant amount of money on this. I'm not gonna, because there's still that insanely small chance and something wacky happens because Vince knows that everyone knows that he ain't going to lose a belt. But if there ever was a match that you considered putting a bet on, this one is pretty damn safe. What logic would dictate to you that Drew McIntyre is going to win the championship? There are so many levels of no to this. Yeah, this is nothing more than a one-off, just a temporary opponent for Big E until Survivor Series, in which case they'll try to sell us the brand versus brand garbage that has like literally no bearing on anything, no consequences, doesn't mean anything. Fans really don't care, but anyway, we'll get to that when we get to that. AJ Styles is a single star. I think we will get that. I do. It would be a shame if we don't. I know that the tag team division, especially on the men's side, isn't exactly deep either, and having AJ and Omos be the ones to face off against Randy and Riddle is fun right now. They're two big stars against two big stars. And I think that until that fizzles out, they're not going to be breaking up anytime soon, unfortunately. So, I don't know what he did to win and earn a number one contenders match either, and why no one else came out to try to dissuade Big E that, hey, wait a minute, I'm the one that should become number one contender. No one even contests this. I have problems with this so many, like the open challenge with Charlotte Flair the other week, and Doudrop's the one that answered it. Why is no one contesting? I mean, we're all supposed to believe that championship's the most important thing in this sports simulation, and yet when someone comes out, no one even disputes it. No one says, hey, no, wait a minute. You've had your chance. You've had your shot. It's my turn. It happens more often than you would think, more often than it should. Okay, moving on. Drew on SmackDown is a great addition, yes. And most likely, when the time comes, you'll get the eventual rematch from last year's Survivor Series of Drew versus Roman. DJ, we don't talk about that because it didn't happen. It did not happen. And this, in my opinion, could be the start of Drew's redemption tour of finally climbing the proverbial mountain and regaining a major world title. You break them down to build them up. Number 4, Shayna Baszler to SmackDown. All of us, every one of you should be excited about this pick for the fact that Shayna is no longer in a tag team with Nia Jax. Hallelujah. Shayna Baszler is finally free to break people's arms on SmackDown. My only problem is with the SmackDown roster basically heel heavy to a few baby faces. Do you keep Shayna heel or do you transition her to a babyface role to challenge Charlotte or Sasha? No hard feelings for Nia, but Shayna clearly needed a change in scenery, and with the good old momentum on her side, she's finally back to breaking arms and caring less about people's feelings. That's Shayna Baszler. Not the one who's getting haunted by dolls or getting the dreaded roll-up performed on her and pinned on a weekly basis. Yes, this is Shayna Baszler, and this is how you erase many months of educating us that Shayna Baszler has been relegated to a tag team role in which she is the weak link. This is how you do it, by Shayna being Shayna, cutting short, effective promos, snapping people's arms, hurting people, not just beating them, injuring, hurting, trying to end people's careers for no reason. That's the Shayna Baszler I want. And that's the one we have. They apparently have listened to us. I don't mean us as in this show, but although maybe. I mean, I don't know how much influence we have. Probably minuscule. But I think the collective, we, as in the fans, have spoken up and they want Shayna out, and here we go. So I'm with you. But as far as the heel heavy SmackDown roster, yeah, it is very heel heavy. I mean, here are the women on the SmackDown side. There's 10 that were drafted. All right, so we have Charlotte, B-Fab, Naomi, Sasha, Shayna, Xia Li, Aaliyah, Toni Storm, Shotzi Blackheart, and Natalya. So keeping her heel, keeping Shayna heel, I think is fine. Shayna Baszler as a heel, to me, works better. I know that she has some kind of badass in her that is admirable, kind of like Brock Lesnar, but she's easily dislikable. I think she does a better job as a heel. That said, you could pair her with Toni Storm, babyface. You could pair her with Naomi, babyface. You could pair her with Shotzi Blackheart. She's a babyface. Natalya can be either. She's an amoeba. She can just do anything. And I mean that kind of as a compliment and a slight, because they never seem to really know what to do with Natalya. As talented as she is, she's the locker room leader for the women. They just don't know what to do with her. They can't ever get her on a run, and maybe that's because they're not having a run in mind for Natalya, and it seems like she's on the back end of her career. But there are several baby faces. You know, as I look at this, you know, I do see several. I know, of course, Charlotte Flair, the top heel on SmackDown, but yeah, this is going to be a fun switch, I have to say. Okay, continuing on, Jeff Hardy to SmackDown. As much as Jeff Hardy has pretty much been lost in the mid-card on Monday Night Raw, him returning back to SmackDown is a good addition since they don't have enough star power on SmackDown. I heard Jeff is hinting of a character change, which in my opinion is much needed. As much as I would like to see him back in the IC title picture, I would be more interested in seeing him going up against Roman Reigns for the Universal title. Jeff is pretty much in the twilight of his career, and who better to retire him than Roman Reigns? And then most likely Jeff goes back to Impact to bring back the Willow character. For the love of everything that is awesome in pro wrestling, please, WWE Creative, keep Jeff away from Sheamus. I do not need to see another god-awful bar fight like they had last year. Yep. Because, well, wait a minute. DJ, if I remember correctly, I haven't thought about that match since it happened during the pandemic era. It brings back some bad memories, not only of the match itself, but of course, just the time we were in. Just, ugh, I know we're still kind of in it, and depending on where you live, you might be out of it or you might not. But anyway, that match, all I remember from that match, it was ridiculous that Sheamus came in. I remember he like sat down next to him and they started talking, and then this randomly brawl. Jeff Hardy was speaking nonsense, and then he summoned some kind of power where he was able to just hulk up and ended up winning the match. That's all I remember. I know I'm missing a lot of detail there, but I remember it was hokey. The cinematic matches are not my thing at all, and I don't apologize for it. I know a lot of you guys love it. I don't. So yeah, anyway, but Jeff Hardy did, and he hinted on Raw this past Monday of something changing. He said that he wants to bring a different side of himself to SmackDown. That would indicate, guess what? We could see a different Jeff Hardy. I think it is time. Why not? If it's not now, then never. And I think Roman Reigns would be a perfect candidate to retire Jeff. It could go on his resume. It'd be another thing he could brag about. And if Jeff Hardy's ready to go anyway, then might as well squeeze all the juice out of him, right? It's not like you're forcing him out at his hesitance where he's like, no, I don't want to. If he's actually ending his contract, or maybe it's Jeff's idea, then hey, yeah, hell yeah. Help build Roman. So honorable mentions I like. Roman Reigns to SmackDown, Ricochet to SmackDown, Hit Row to SmackDown, Humberto with Angel Garza to SmackDown, and also Drew Gulak to SmackDown. All right, so here's your other side of the coin here. Your 5 picks you disliked. You said I had a ton of dislikes here, so it was kind of hard narrowing it down to 5. Becky Lynch to Raw. Interesting. You don't have any comments on that, DJ. Why do you not like Becky Lynch to Raw? I'm interested. Maybe it'll be on your voicemail. Number 2, Liv Morgan to Raw. As part of the Liv Morgan army of supporters, I really appreciated Liv on SmackDown, and since Ruby got released, Liv has done a really good job in stepping out of her comfort zone, and really feeling confident as a single star on her own. With Bianca moving to Raw, this would have been a great opportunity for SmackDown to make Liv the next established top women's babyface on the SmackDown roster to challenge Becky Lynch after Crown Jewel. But now, with Liv on Raw, that leaves SmackDown with a huge void as to who will be the next challenger for Becky Lynch after Crown Jewel. Liv is clearly my favorite to win the Women's Queen of the Ring tournament. Wish her all the best on Monday Night Raw. Yeah, I do too. And I know what you're saying. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I don't care where they place Liv as long as they give her an opportunity. That's what I'm looking for. And when I mean an opportunity, I mean go all the way with her. Make her champion. Tell a good story that evolves over a few months. Easy to understand. Fans will get behind her. Fans want a reason to get behind her, and see where the chips fall. If it doesn't work out, hell, WWE's not ashamed of dropping the belt quickly, playing hot potato. They've done it many times recently. So that's how I feel about Liv. I know what you mean though, DJ. I do. And I don't think it's the Queen of the Ring tournament. It's something else, and I can't remember the damn name. It's not Queen of the Ring. I don't know. Somebody's yelling it out there. Somebody tweet at me on Twitter at wrestling_audio. Somebody just say, you idiot, it's this. I'm drawing a blank, guys. AJ stuck with Omos yet again on Raw, number 3. This would have been the moment. This would have been the opportunity of a lifetime to resurrect AJ's singles career if he got drafted to SmackDown. Easily, AJ Styles could have been one of the next couple of challengers to face Roman for the Universal title. Keeping AJ in a tag team after 7 to 8 months was a bad decision by Creative. These guys are no longer tag champs for crying out loud, and Creative hasn't created a storyline where they split this team. This draft would have been the opportunity to split them up, or you could have split them up right after Crown Jewel. Let Omos stay on Raw. He's had enough time with AJ, and let's see what the big guy can do on his own. Creative teased a Randy Orton versus Omos match on Raw this past Monday, but that never happened, where we only got Randy hitting the RKO on AJ. And also, AJ is in the twilight of his career. Giving him one more title opportunity would make sense if he was away from Omos. Yeah, I mean, it will be a crime among crimes if they do not allow AJ Styles to have one more run and then call it a career. Or move on to AEW or Impact or Ring of Honor. I mean, I don't know, Independence, Japan, if he wants to continue wrestling, or maybe stay in WWE and kind of mull around. But either way, AJ Styles does need to move on from this now. And I enjoyed Omos and AJ Styles. I really did. Now that the thing is, though, that once they won the titles at WrestleMania, that's the Raw Tag Team titles, they disappeared for a month because Creative had nothing for them. That's a bad job out of Creative. That's just bad. How do you not have anything? And then they chalked it up to, oh, you took a vacation. No, it's Creative had nothing for us, guys. That was embarrassing. And I felt for AJ there, but I'm ready for Omos too to be on his own. Of course, what do we know, right? They used AJ Styles not just as an actual tag team partner on screen, but I'm sure a mentor behind the scenes. So, and also AJ being out there creates an easier road for Omos to travel because the workload in the ring is cut in half or more, with AJ doing most of the bumping and Omos coming in for the hot tag and just clearing house. So it lightened the workload. It allowed Omos to watch one of the best ever work on a daily and weekly basis. And of course the backstage advice, and I'm sure they've developed some kind of bond. So it depends on how WWE views Omos. Are they ready to let the training wheels off? I don't know. I said they are. You said they are. But ultimately, my opinion, your opinion, and the millions of fans around the world's opinion don't matter. The only ones that matter, the only one, it's not even plural, it's singular. The only one opinion that matters is that of Vincent Kennedy McMahon. That's it. So we'll see. But I'm ready for Omos. I was looking forward to that match, and we never got it. We never got a Randy versus Omos. I was disappointed. It's not often that WWE teases a match that you think is going to happen and then doesn't deliver. It's not often. So number 4, the Street Profits remain together on Raw. Boy, oh boy, was I in support of having the Street Profits split up and keeping Dawkins on SmackDown and moving Montez to join his wife Bianca on Raw. For those that saw the Roman Reigns versus Montez Ford main event on Friday night SmackDown a week ago, you were able for the first time to see on the main roster Montez Ford put on an awesome match on his own against Roman. This sampling that we saw goes to show that Montez has the potential to be a future main event star. I got nothing against Angelo Dawkins, but in my opinion, this is Montez's time to shine and have a singles run for a mid-card title and then slowly move up to the main event status, like his wife Bianca. Plus, since SmackDown is currently running low on mid-card division, this would have been a great opportunity for creative to push Dawkins into a singles role and most likely face Roman in the near future on SmackDown. I think there's no question. It's just science. It's just physics, law of physics, law of gravity. The most basic thing ever that Montez Ford is the star of that group, no doubt. Anybody that believes Angelo Dawkins is, I would check your temperature. I mean, for real. I mean, nothing, as you said, nothing against Angelo. He's good at the ring. He's a good sidekick, and yeah, he's the bigger one. But boy, oh boy, is Montez Ford the star of that group. He's got more charisma. He's got more authenticity. He's more athletic in the ring. He's got, I mean, seriously, it's like Inspector Gadget, right? When he has like go gadget legs. That's what I envision with Montez Ford. He has got his legs are clearly built or were maybe transplanted from a power lifter that's 400 pounds or rather maybe 300 pounds, because the strength that his legs have are exponentially more, have more power than what his body should be able to produce, if that makes any sense. But my point is, Montez Ford is a star, and he showed it on SmackDown. He's been showing it since he's been in that tag team. I don't know if I'd break up the Street Profits, though. It seems a little too early to do that. And WWE loves to run their silly segments that they do together, kind of talking nonsense and talking about fam and talking about this and that. Like they like those things. And I think right now they wouldn't know what to do with Angelo. And that tag team doesn't feel like it's run its course yet. I'm not ready to pull the plug like you are, because I think they are good as a tag team in a tag team division that needs tag teams. So, but yeah, I know. I'm sure that Angelo, or rather Montez and Bianca, probably wish they were on the same show. I'm sure that's not a plus for both of them, unless they're having a bad marriage, right? Like if their marriage sucks. I mean, I don't think it does, but if it did, if you're going through some rough times, maybe time apart would be the best thing ever, right? Who knows? All right, I don't want, trust me, you don't want me giving you relationship advice. You just don't. Number 5. Now I'm going to mention the opposite. The tag team of Shotzi Blackheart and Tegan Nox are officially split. Shotzi remains on SmackDown while Tegan moves to Raw. I was very bothered by this split because they never got a tag team title opportunity after pinning the previous tag champs of Natty and Tamina twice, if I'm not mistaken. Then recently on SmackDown, after a singles match between Natty and Nikki, Shotzi and Tegan literally shooted their shot with a Nerf ball from the tank to, quote-unquote, send a message to Nikki and Rhea that they want their shot at the tag team titles. Now, to ask my rhetorical question, what has creative done with this storyline as of late? Absolutely nothing. In a division where there is pretty much no challengers as of now for Rhea and Nikki, why the hell, creative, would you break up Shotzi and Nox? It makes no sense. Maybe Shotzi becomes a breakout star and a top-tier babyface to face Becky, and Tegan gets lost in the mid-card on Monday Night Raw. As of now, nobody knows how their future will pan out. Yep. I was not a fan of their tank. I know, it was cool in NXT. Listen, I don't care how cool it looked in NXT. You know why? Because they're not on NXT anymore. They're on Raw. Or they were. Or SmackDown. This is now like the big leagues. I know that, I have some NXT fans out there who think I'm insulting NXT. I'm not. I'm just talking about ratings. The ratings for Raw and SmackDown, especially SmackDown, are like double what NXT produces. So that said, I think that they didn't even give this tag team a chance to breathe at all. It's amazing that right now they have one tag team in the women's division. I shouldn't even call it a division right now. It's not a division. So this is really unprecedented territory. It really is, where there's no challenger for the title. None. Zero. But I will not miss the tank coming out. I will not miss the Nerf gun. That's just all silliness to me. It is. So, all right. Honorable mentions I disliked. Seth to Raw. Mysterio still together on Raw. Keith Lee on Raw. No. Hey, DJ. You mean Keith Bearcat Lee. Come on. You got to add the nickname. It makes it so much better. Bobby Lashley on Raw. Cesaro still stuck on SmackDown. And Charlotte Flair to SmackDown. Oh, and here are the unknowns that have not been drafted. Brock Lesnar, he's a free agent. Bayley, injured. Asuka, injured. Dakota Kai, dark matches. Eva Marie, we're not sure. Probably written off TV, it seems, since her encounter with Shayna Baszler. Yeah, hopefully. Maybe they'll just transport her back to the Divas era and then just leave her there. We can only hope. Elias, most likely repackaged as someone else. Yes. We haven't seen Elias in what, like 6 weeks, I feel like? He's still out in the middle of nowhere burning more of his stuff as a symbolic gesture of a character change. Maybe that's what he's doing. He hasn't burned all his stuff yet. Possible. John Cena, free agent. Goldberg, free agent. Lacey Evans, maternity leave. Yep. Those are all true. I have nothing really to add to that. There are certain individuals that are just exempt from the draft, and they want to be able to move them freely about. And that's fine. I'm okay with certain guys and gals being above the normal rules of a draft. It makes total sense. I have nothing against that. Okay, so let's address the important matter to close off this segment, and it's about Kevin Owens. All right, this is DJ's final segment here in the DJ booth. What is going on with Kevin Owens? Where is Kevin Owens? Is it me, or has Kevin Owens looked pretty much unenthusiastic about his current role in WWE? He used to be full of life with his entrances. It's just not the same anymore. When I saw him in that segment on Raw with Akira Tozawa, I was like, you got to be kidding me. And that's exactly Kevin's that was exactly Kevin's facial expression, the you got to be kidding me look. I was also like, they better not put Kevin in the 24/7 title chase. I clearly see that since Kevin's amazing feud with Roman, his career took a hit and he has regressed to say the least. Clearly, WWE has its types when it comes to who should be chosen to be a breakout star and be the face of the company, and sad to say, KO does not fit that mode. I like how Kevin Owens is relatable in a sense that he is the type of character that fans can organically support because he resembles the common, hardworking, blue-chipping, beer-drinking guy that loves to fight. I don't know about you, but I'm getting Dean Ambrose, aka Jon Moxley vibes from this current stint with Kevin Owens in WWE. Knowing that Kevin's contract is coming to an end, why the hell would creative treat him this way? It's insulting to see Kevin hasn't even won the IC title while he was on SmackDown, and now he's on Raw. Where do you go with Kevin from here? If I was Kevin, I would ask for my release ASAP and not have to continue going through the motions and taking the total BS crap that creative has given me every week. With that being said, shout out to Kevin Owens if everyone can. please send him a DM and let him know that he deserves better, and give him an encouraging message, because wrestlers are human beings too that suffer through phases of depression at times, and they are not just not just the characters they portray on television. That's all for now as we wrap up in the DJ booth with DJ Kuzmo. Peace, y'all. P.S. I've got some choice words on the draft, Keith Lee rant, and the future of SmackDown going forward in this voice recording. Okay, well, DJ, we will get to that voice recording, as always, right after we're done with the email, so stay tuned. Look, I have been of the belief that Kevin Owens is headed to AEW. And if I was Kevin Owens, and here's what I've heard rumor-wise. So, the good old rumors. Kevin Owens' contract expires in January. I believe it's January 31st, if I'm not mistaken. And if that's the case, I don't have much time left, right? Like, now it's less than 4 months until the end of January. So I would bust my ass. I still would do a hell of a job in WWE. I wouldn't phone things in. You know why? I wouldn't ask for my release. Number one, it's 4 months. He's been there how many years? What the hell's another 4 months? He's getting paid very well, even if he's doing silly crap. But more importantly, it sends the all-important message to AEW management, i.e. Tony Khan and company, that you fulfill your contractual obligations and that you do it to the best of your ability. That you don't just phone it in. You don't half-ass it, even when you're being put in garbage segments that you know you don't belong in. You just have to kind of grin, bear it, and say to yourself, okay, I've got 90 days. I've got 86 days. I've got 75 days. Like, I'm sure he has a countdown going. I would be shocked if Kevin Owens renews his WWE contract. The flip side of this is, not only is AEW probably looking at Kevin Owens closely to make sure that he's the kind of talent that they want and he does fulfill and he's hardworking, all that stuff, even when he's given a pile of crap. The other part of this is, well, if WWE wants to keep him and they don't want AEW to have him, why are they treating him like this? Well, perhaps a couple things is happening. Maybe they know that Kevin Owens wants nothing to do with re-signing a contract. Maybe they've already approached him. Maybe they've already said, hey, Kevin, look, we know your contract is up in a few months. We're looking at this deal, that deal. What would we need to do to keep you? And maybe Kevin Owens brushed him off, said, nope, not interested. Thanks, no thanks. Maybe that's the case. Maybe that's why they're like, okay, well, if you're out of here, we ain't doing jack with you, right? And we're going to put you in some programs that ultimately you're going to lose. And that's just what they do, especially when they have somebody on their way out. Look what they did with Dean Ambrose, losing to EC3, if I'm not mistaken. So don't be surprised if it gets worse for Kevin Owens before it gets better. Again, Kevin Owens would fit immeasurably better in AEW than he does in WWE. His personality, his organic connection with the fans, his, I think, among most fans, this perceived notion that he has been misbooked, misused for so long. All of that wrapped into AEW, which is the hottest wrestling product right now. Even if the ratings aren't equal to WWE, AEW is still getting, I think, more of a buzz than WWE. But that's what's I think happening. Maybe they already offered him an extension, knowing that it's coming up soon, and he turned it down. And if they think that he's going to AEW, and that's the reason he didn't accept the extension, then they're gonna give him the craps for the next few months. So if we can grin and bear it, just know that after that, Kevin Owens will be headed to AEW. I really believe that. Do I know that? No. That's just my feeling, my gut feeling. So stick with it, guys. If you're a Kevin Owens fan, just stay tuned. Okay. Well, let's just get through it. Again, from what I understand, his contract's up in January. Maybe you guys can find something different, but that's the last I heard. So good topic to bring up. All right, DJ, we will get to your voicemail, as I said, shortly. Let's get to Wesley. Wesley Hill writes in, and Wes says, "Hey Matt, hope you're good. Do you think the creative side of things in WWE suffers because the rosters are too deep in terms of numbers? I'm certainly not suggesting anyone should lose their jobs, but If there were fewer performers, the creative team could focus on fewer characters, which would likely improve the storylines for each superstar. I understand one caveat to this would be fewer combinations for matches, which could lead to repetitive cards and a familiarity breeds concept aspect, but better stories would surely counter this. A near perfect balance would need to be achieved, which I'm not sure WWE could do at the moment. What are your thoughts? Take care. Boy, good question, Wes. So there are certainly two schools of thought here. The two schools of thought are this. You have fewer talent to work with, which on the downside is, like you said, you don't have as maybe much diversity in terms of style or look, or maybe just the presence or star power, whatever the diversity may be. And when I say diversity in 2021, I know people are thinking, oh, skin color, race. That of course, that's kind of included, but that's not my main point. I'm talking about wrestling style and wrestling focused diversity. But also the downside is, like you said, fewer matchups to be had. And also people would feel like it's the same product it's the same matches being recycled over and over and people like new. The plus side of having fewer talent, like you said, you're able to take that talent and focus your energy on that talent to build a star in a way and stars in a way that you might not be able to do with too many cooks in the kitchen, too many talent on your roster where you don't know maybe what to do with X, Y, and Z talent. Maybe you don't know. Maybe, and that's what the distraction is there's just too much. Maybe it's saturation. However, to just boil it down and say that there's just too many talent on the roster, I would say no, but I would say maybe there's too many creative team members. I wouldn't actually put it on the talent and say there's too much talent. I would say there's too many people in creative. That's how I would look at this. And so again, you could argue with the creative side and say, well, again, diversity of thought, right? And there's the issue of groupthink and the fact that if you have more people, that means more ideas. Not necessarily. Again, groupthink is a problem. If you don't know what groupthink is, it's basically like someone comes up with an idea, a few people agree, and then even those that may not agree at all or fringe agree, just agree because the group agrees. And then good ideas may be suppressed because the group takes precedent over maybe what you perceive as a better idea. So rather than stand up and say, hey, what about this or that, and risk being shunned by the group, you just go along with it and be part of the group. I've been guilty of doing that, especially with a project I don't give a crap about. I'm just like, whatever, I don't think it's the right idea, but I don't care enough, right? But I think that fewer creative minds is better. Again, you got to select those fewer creative minds very carefully. But I think if you have too many people with too many ideas about what to do with your talent roster, that's more dangerous than having too much talent on your roster. Because I'd rather have a bigger pool to pull from in terms of talent to create a storyline than fewer. So, boy, I hope I answered that. I really went in a different direction, but great question, Wesley. Great question. I'm not suggesting that people lose their jobs either, but I will say that Nick Khan, not Tony Khan that runs AEW, but Nick Khan, who is the president of WWE and has really been the catalyst for a lot of these firings that we saw over the spring and summer, the headlining releases, Bray Wyatt, Braun Strowman, and others. Nick Khan has been at the head of that in the ear of Vince McMahon to trim the fat. Let's start fresh. Let's just, let's just fix things now. Let's not keep talent around for the sake of keeping them around. So I think they are reducing the numbers of talent that they hold in terms of the wrestlers in the ring. We've seen it already. But yeah, I'm not a fan of keeping things just to keep people around for no reason when they're not utilizing their talents. But I think, again, what they suffer from more is probably groupthink and the fact that they have simply too many creative minds and that they're writing for Vince and not writing for what maybe they believe is the best product that could be put out. writing for Vince is a problem. And it's only a problem because Vince creates a culture in which if you don't write for something I would like, it's not going to be put on TV because if I don't like it, it's not going there, instead of doing what maybe is a better option. So I think I made that argument too a number of weeks ago on the, and this is actually on the Torch. I don't remember which host it was. I'm not sure, but somebody said that it might have even been Wade. And he's like, hey, people kind of like belittling people that are saying that, well, writers are writing for Vince and why is that a problem? No, it might've been Matt McCarthy he had on, which by the way, great, I really love his interviews. So there's a plug, but I think it might've been Matt McCarthy, who was a former writer, and he had heard the complaints about the fans saying, oh, the writers are writing for Vince. They're not writing for, what they think is right. And Matt McCarthy was like, well, yeah, they are writing for Vince. They should be. Why? Right? I'd love to ask that question. Why should they be writing for Vince? Why wouldn't Vince create a culture in which he could, the creative team could feel comfortable in presenting an idea to Vince that necessarily doesn't suit his taste, but that the creative team feels is the best choice, even if it doesn't suit his taste in wrestling? That's the problem. You're writing for one person versus millions. And that one person has created a culture in which, and it's his fault, Vince, for creating a culture in which if he doesn't like your ideas, he's not going to put them on TV. But they may be damn good ideas. And unfortunately, he's the end all be all. So that in and of itself is the problem. And it's Vince's unwillingness maybe to take a leap of faith and realize that there are other great wrestling minds outside of your own, buddy. So, all right. Well, I've gone way into this, but Wesley, that is a hell of a question. And thank you so much for it. And please email us back. Whew. All right. Let's get to, your email. You guys' emails this week are long. I'm not complaining. I just got to keep drinking some water here. Okay. So Junior Garcia writes in and says that, this is my first time dropping my thoughts on WWE related events. So let's see. First of all, I have to thank you guys for providing tons of content each week. I recently started listening to your podcast a couple of weeks ago. I've been enjoying listening to your podcast. It makes my day really go faster. Well, that's awesome. Anyway, where should I start? I guess I'll start by saying what I really feel. There you go, buddy. That's what we do here. I got to say, you already fit in. You're already part of the crowd. You're part of the clique. You're in with the cool kids because that's what we do here. A lot of the big name podcasts, and I'm subscribed to them, and I think they do a great job too, but I think what they lack is a sense of real fans. They come at it from an analyst perspective and not a passionate wrestling fan perspective. Does that make sense? And again, we're not nearly as successful as some of the big names, right? What do you got? Of course, you got the Torch, you got the Observer, you got Busted Open, among others. But what you don't have are passionate fans talking real, where there's no vested interest in the company. We're not affiliated with WWE in any capacity at all. I mean, we do, I think, a very real job here. And it's a passionate one. And that's, I think, the difference where you listen to other shows, again, very successful, but they come at it from an analytical perspective they take the passion out of it. They take the fandom out of it. And I think that's where they lack, where we succeed. And that's, I think, how this podcast has grown is because we're so real. Everybody that I bring on the team, I don't tell them how to act. I don't tell them what to put on their shows. They have their own shows. I say, you guys do what you want, right? As long as you cover just this topic, you can cover it in any way you want. Plug anything else if you're doing side shows, whatever, right? That's the way it should be. I always say, number one, though, be real. People can smell BS and inauthenticity a mile away. So anyway, way off track there again, but JR or Junior Garcia, you fit right in, buddy. I got to say. Anyway, am I the only person who enjoys the Roman Reigns storyline, but at the same time do not like how he is portrayed as an untouchable? I mean, the storytelling is the best WWE has going, but I just wish they would occasionally have Roman Reigns lose a match here and there. It seems to me this guy never loses, and to me, that is getting old. You agree or disagree they should give Roman a little more vulnerability or not? Well, okay. Listen, we don't see this that often. I can't tell you the last time that an undefeated streak went this long. I don't know. I really don't know the last time an undefeated streak went this long. I mean, Rusev had an undefeated streak going. I don't remember how long it was, but ultimately it was John Cena at WrestleMania that ended up beating him, which famously just started a downward spiral for Rusev's career. And now he's doing a nice job as Miro in AEW. So, again, undefeated streaks usually happen at the beginning of a career. They don't happen midway. So that's, I think, something different for sure. And the thing is, too, I mean, you said it yourself, that Roman Reigns has been the best storytelling that WWE has going. So why would they mess with it, right? I understand what you're saying, that the formula, as good as it is, you're feeling it's getting a little stale. I get it. Seeing Roman lose here and there would make you feel better, and it would feel like it's changing things up, and it's not always the same old Roman wins. But again, you said it. They're doing something that works really well. You don't see an undefeated streak midway through someone's career that often. You don't come across a storyline like this very often. I wouldn't try to fix something that's not broke. I really wouldn't. And again, I don't say this that often, that, you know, this doesn't need to be tweaked. It really doesn't. I really cannot find criticisms in this storyline. And I understand your frustration for Roman losing a match here and there. I do. I really do get that. But I think the moment in which he does lose will feel that much bigger, rather than like, oh yeah, well, he lost a few months ago, right? So also, if he loses, are you suggesting that he loses the championship and gets it back, or just a non-title match? I mean, and also he doesn't wrestle that much on SmackDown. He used to wrestle every single show. Now it feels important when he wrestles. He's almost got that Brock Lesnar feel to him. They've done such a great job. So the answer is no, but I understand. It seems to me that this guy never loses and it's getting old. Okay. Also, I feel the reason Roman is having as much success as he is two major reasons. One, the whole company is literally doing everything in their power to give him all the help in the world to make him this huge of a superstar, and give him Paul Heyman as a mouthpiece, come on, man, that is genius, and an Oscar-winning actor. Did you see how he cried when Roman yelled at him? I forgot about that. Yeah. Paul Heyman's an absolute genius. I don't think we realize how much of a genius he is, even though we all know he's good and really good. But sometimes you forget that he's almost legendary. I mean, the guy's a Hall of Famer. Paul Heyman is a Hall of Famer. And I forgot about the tears he pulled out. Oh, my tribal chief. Please don't do this. My tribal chief. Yeah, it's great stuff. I forgot. Thank you for reminding me of that. I have to say, Brock Lesnar is one of the scariest people in the world, even though it's all scripted. His facial expressions when he stares down an opponent and walks to the ring makes you believe he's legitimately pissed off. Well, he probably is. He's probably legitimately pissed off that he had to get off his farm, get on a plane, and come to an arena with a whole bunch of people he doesn't want to see. So the emotion, the pissed offness is probably real. I know he's getting paid to do it, but Brock Lesnar hates people. Oh, a man after my own heart. I wouldn't be surprised if Brock beat Roman at Crown Jewel. Remember, he beat Undertaker, the Undertaker streak, not Roman. Moving on, I really enjoyed Seth Rollins' segment where he was at Edge's home and he basically made himself at home. It reminded me of the good old days when WWE had this kind of thing go on all the time. Seth Rollins and Edge had so much talent and chemistry. These guys could literally have 20 matches building bad blood forever, and I wouldn't grow tired of watching them go at it. I guess I could talk about WWE all day and I won't get any sleep if I continue to talk about everything, so I'll give quick thoughts about wrestlers and matches. I'm glad Drew was drafted to SmackDown. He needed it. I hate Big E as WWE champion. Are you just pandering to us, Garcia? Are you just pandering? Your opinions are a WWE podcast approved. How about that? I'll stamp the approval stamp on it. Bobby Lashley was a much better champion. Wished he had held it longer. I hate the New Day. Those clowns should have been separated in the draft. I can't stand the Mysterios. Their storyline is boring and a major snooze fest. I love Shayna Baszler breaking arms. That makes her a badass, and I hope to see more of that. I hope they make Sheamus a babyface again. I hate how Jeff Hardy is being used as a jobber. I get putting talent over legends, but there's a right way and a disrespectful way to do it. You could build a feud between a legend and a new talent and build up a fight the way that the legend doesn't get buried and the new talent goes over in a better way. I feel if you make a legend lose all the time, you aren't going to do anyone any favors. The new talent doesn't get any respect for the win because it's very anticlimactic and so apparent what's being done. My last thought before I go, I can't stand Goldberg. His promos are trash. His matches are lame. Give some airtime to new talent, not this over-the-hill Oldberg, but no one cares about. His son is a moron from jumping in the ring with the Almighty. I'm glad the Hurt Business is back. MVP will be the mouthpiece for big stars for many years, the way Paul Heyman has. Been a good night. Keep up the great work. Thank you. Wow. Whew. I honestly can't comment on all that. You just created a 3-hour show for me right there with all those points. So I'll just leave them as is. And I probably touched on many of them. But Mr. Garcia, thank you for your first email. Glad we can help your day go faster. And all of your opinions are WWE podcast approved. We approve this message is basically what I'm saying. All right. Thank you so much. Let's continue on. And I promise we don't have too many more emails here. Actually, just one. And it's from the Casual Wrestling Fan, which, by the way, guys, Casual Wrestling Fan will be joining me this Sunday night for the Week in Review. Yeah, how about that? That's going to be a blast. Haven't had him on here in a while. You guys have been asking. He will be here Sunday night for the Week in Review. All right, so Mr. Casual Wrestling Fan here. Short and sweet again. I actually appreciate that. I mean, I love hearing from you, Mr. Casual Wrestling Fan. But by the time I got to your email here, my voice is starting to go a little, so I really appreciate it. Again, I'm not disrespecting your opinions. I really enjoy them. But when I opened your email, I kind of breathed a sigh of relief because normally your emails are very long and my voice is starting to go. So selfishly, I was a little bit excited as I continue to just blow up my voice. Okay, Mr. Casual Wrestling Fan, looking forward to Sunday. Okay, I hate Becky Lynch as SmackDown champion, women's champion, soon to be Raw women's champion. Long live the Queen. Also, everyone check out this week's Week in Review show for a special treat. That's all for today. Yes, as I had just stole your thunder. Yes, special treat coming this Sunday with the Casual Wrestling Fan. Don't miss it. But interesting that you hate the Becky Lynch as SmackDown Women's Champion, soon to be Raw Women's Champion, as they're going to inevitably swap belts. That's what happens when you have a brand exclusive championship move to the other brand, and that other one go to the other one. Right? They're gonna just go backstage and so, oh, here's your championship, here's mine, and we go on our merry way. Right? That's what the tag team champions did last time. So, also, I know, Mr. Casual Wrestling Fan, you did note to me because we were trying to get you on the show earlier this week, is something about the Nashville crowd. So don't forget to bring that up. I know, and I really don't know what you're talking about. I'm not trying to keep people on the hook or be very elusive. I really don't know what you mean by the Nashville crowd, but I'm sure you do. So don't forget to bring that up. And everybody, tune in on Sunday. You're not going to want to miss this show with the Casual Wrestling Fan and myself. He's always a great guest, great guy, and looking forward to it. He even had his wife, Mrs. Casual Wrestling Fan, on the show a couple of months ago doing the mailbag, where he took over the show and he did the mailbag for us, which was a lot of fun. So check that out. That was a number of months ago. It's called the Mailbag Takeover. If you want to search for it on our feed, it's really, really it was one of our best shows in terms of downloads and everything. It was great. So anyway, let's continue on, and hallelujah. we can finally get to the voicemails. And it's back to the Mr. DJ Kuzmo's corner here, or rather in the DJ booth with Mr. DJ Kuzmo.
Hello, WWE Podcast World. This is none other than DJ Kuzmo, back at it again on your Mailbag show. I'm recording live once again on a beautiful Tuesday evening. And before we get started, I want to put a quick shout out to my New York Football Giants. They finally won their first game of the season in one of the most exciting finishes to ever happen for Daniel Jones, the quarterback of my football team. Shout out to the New York Giants. They finally got their first win of the season. Now, let's get to everything WWE, and man oh man, night 1 and night 2 was insane with the amount of draft picks going to different places, going from Raw to SmackDown to Raw, and even some people from NXT 2.0 to come to SmackDown and come to Raw. It was crazy. But as we all know, and as we probably see the trend, that Raw always wins the draft. So it wasn't a surprise. It wasn't a surprise to see that almost everybody from the SmackDown roster gets drafted to Raw. I'm talking about Bianca Belair. Oh, Seth freaking Rollins. Oh my goodness, Edge. They even got Becky Lynch that just defeated, that just got the SmackDown, women's title, and now she's on Raw. So, WWE Creative, can you explain to me how the hell you have a SmackDown Women's Champion on the Raw roster? I know it doesn't go into effect until October 22nd after the god-awful, Crown Jewel pay-per-view. But that being said, congratulations to Raw. You finally got what you always wanted, and that's a ton load of talent. But I gotta say to these guys that are working in creative, let's see some interesting storylines. You have all the talent. You have a 3-hour show. Of course, you're competing with Monday Night Football. But come on, guys. I don't want to see the same rinse and repeat crap. I don't want to see the same 50-50 booking. Give me some interesting storylines. The mid-card division on Monday Night Raw is pretty stacked. I'm surprised that Cross is still on Raw. I'm surprised that even the Bearcat, I will get to him, he's still on Raw. But other than that, shout out to the USA. USA finally got what they wanted, and they got a lot of big name stars to come on the Raw roster. Now, speaking of the Bearcat, shout out to Matt. I gotta say, last week's Raw review was spot on, my friend. And you ranted, oh my goodness, on the whole, what is a Bearcat? And why are they calling him Keith Bearcat Lee? And the whole stuff about, a Bearcat is a specific type of animal that looks like an ugly raccoon. And how would you relate that to Keith Lee? It is just bizarre to say why they are putting a label on Keith Lee by calling him the Bearcat. Well, I understand. I did do some research, and I found out that there was a professional wrestler, an African American, that was one of the first black champions, I should say, in the name of Bearcat. In the name of Bearcat Right. But come on, who in their right mind, if I were to tell you that the Bearcat is on Raw, they'd be like, what the hell is a Bearcat? And why is creative putting this label on this guy? And why is Keith Lee heel? I mean, I love Keith Lee as a babyface with the whole bask in his glory. Though this time when he was the NXT champion and the North American champion, I love that. He had the charisma. He had that presence, that believability that he could be a future champion on the main roster. But when he first came in, they destroyed his theme music. They gave him some crappy theme music. And of course, they gave him now this new gimmick as the Bearcat. What the hell is a Bearcat? And how the hell can the fans relate to a guy named after an ugly animal, no offense, named after an ugly looking animal in a Bearcat that looks like a raccoon? But I digress. So WWE Creative, I don't know what the hell they're doing with Keith Lee. Who is Keith Lee? I don't know. Where is Keith Lee going? I don't know. And what is Keith Lee about with this Bearcat gimmick? Like I said, I don't know. So creative, please educate me and all the fans. We are trying to figure out who is Keith Lee. Now, from now we're gonna go on to my beloved SmackDown, and just to see, oh my goodness, the roster, the entire mid-card division being gutted. Of course, we have Sheamus going to SmackDown. We have Jeff Hardy going back to SmackDown. But look, after when you have Drew McIntyre and maybe Xavier Woods, maybe a Jeff Hardy, who is next in line to face Roman Reigns as that top tier babyface? Because after Drew McIntyre, who is by far the most believable babyface, to face Roman Reigns, who is next in line? I don't see that. And I'm very worried about this roster. As they say, SmackDown builds up the roster and Raw just guts them out and takes them to Monday Night Raw on the USA Network. So I am uncertain as to see what's going to happen on SmackDown with this mid-card division. I was a little bit confused as to why they didn't split up the Street Profits. At least have Montez on Raw and Dawkins on SmackDown. But I digress. I could go on a further rant and a further rabbit hole with all of this stuff. But all I gotta say is, man, oh man, what an insane night 1 and night 2. Of course, you got Crown Jewel. That's all for me right now. Thank you all for listening to the sound of my voice as I rant. I hope you have a blessed week, and I will talk to you next time.
DJ, awesome to hear you, and love the rants. I love it. You certainly had a lot to say this week, and look, the one thing I'll pick out of that, because there's so much to dissect, and I did go over a lot of that already in my mailbag, but the Keith Bearcat Lee thing, man, I don't know. Somebody had told me, might have been the casual wrestling fan, told me, well, it's a military thing, a military unit or something like that, a military, some kind of driving unit. But I don't care. I honestly don't care what it is. We weren't told why he got a nickname. You can't just assign a nickname, by the way. It's like giving yourself a nickname. It's just an unspoken rule. You don't do it. You earn it somehow. What does he do? What is a Bearcat? Again, don't know. They won't even bother explaining it. I can guarantee you that we're just supposed to look at this and go, oh, it's a Bearcat. Well, bears are vicious and cats are cunning. Maybe he's, I guess we're supposed to make that analogy of what a bear and a cat are, and the attributes that they have, and apply that to Keith Lee. Man, I don't know. It's just so WWE to add something to a name that doesn't need to be fixed. Or in some cases, take away a first name. They've been famous for doing that. Andrade Cien Almas. Well, then in that case, took the last name away. Rusev had Cesaro had a first name. Antonio, that went away, right? A long litany of stars that they've just screwed around with the names for no apparent reason. And now they're apparently, just Vince looks at Keith Lee and hears the name Keith Lee and it feels like it's too generic, I guess, and thinks that he needs to just add something. Well, let me ask you something. What about Steve Austin? That's about as plain as it gets, unless you're going to Steve Smith, right? Steve Austin is pretty damn plain, and I think that worked well. So I think rather than trying to use superficial ways to increase interest in a character, you actually do character development, right? You actually take the time to tell the backstory of the character, give them promo time, instead of just slapping a silly nickname on them and thinking that's going to help. It's not. It's actually going to make it worse because, again, you don't assign yourself a nickname. They don't explain it, and it's a terrible sounding name anyway. So, all right, DJ, thank you for the rants. As always, really, really fun to listen to you, and I'll be interested in hearing what you have to say next week as we creep closer to the Thursday. Guys, don't forget, Thursday, the 21st, the Crown Jewel pay-per-view, live from Saudi Arabia. Love it or hate it, that's what it is. All right, let's get to our next voicemail.
Hey, it's Kyle from Baltimore. I just came back from SmackDown. It was in Baltimore tonight, and so I thought, I haven't been to a show since 2018, so it was a fun episode for sure. And it was cool to see. the people that got drafted, like Hit Row, for example, they were there at the beginning of the show before the show started during the dark match before the show, and they have a cool vibe with them all for the entire group, and I'm glad they're gonna be on SmackDown moving forward. I don't know what that means about Swerve as the North American champion. He has to lose that belt. He was fake. Same for Charlotte being the Raw Women's champion now on SmackDown, and Bianca on Raw, which I kind of figured that was going to happen. I wonder what that means for what does that mean for Becky and Sasha? I guess it seems as the fact that they didn't get drafted was really bizarre to me. But I expected them to get drafted like the first round of on Raw on Monday, but whatever. But yeah, it's like quick thing to say that the show itself was fun. I enjoyed being there. I forgot how it is to be in a show. It was a long time, so it was enjoyable. But that's my quick thoughts. Thanks for the call. Bye.
Hey Kyle, well, good to hear from you. A little bit muffled in your voicemail, so I think I'm gonna. If I didn't decode this correctly, it's my bad. You're asking about or rather Becky and Sasha, and yes, they're not on the same brand, yet they're going to be having a match, a triple threat, of course, with Bianca Belair at Crown Jewel, which that's a WrestleMania main event right there, and I'm fine with it. I think they're trying to get away from the four horsewomen always battling one another, and they're trying to add some new elements, some new talent. That's why they brought up Xia Li and they broke up Shotzi and Nox, and they're trying to incorporate that new talent and make things feel fresh rather than just going to Becky versus Charlotte or Charlotte versus Sasha or Sasha versus Becky. As great as those women are, and they are like the cornerstones and foundational pillars of the women's evolution / revolution, and credit to them. I think WWE does want to move away from that same kind of rotation of characters always battling one another. That doesn't mean we've seen the last of it. Far from it. But rather WWE focusing on them so much. Look at what they've done with Bianca, who feels like she's on the same level as them. Again, I can't compliment what they've done with Bianca enough, and Bianca herself. Credit to her. So, as far again, Becky and Sasha not being on the same brand makes sense. Makes sense to me. I know that now, of course, we have Sasha and Charlotte on the same brand, so that'll be fun. Eventually, they will cross paths, and obviously Becky and Bianca Belair are. So they had to divvy up the star power as best they could. And as DJ Kuzmo said in the previous voicemail, Raw wins, and you know what? Raw should probably win because they're the longer show. In terms of, I guess depends on your definition of winning. If it means getting more talent, yeah, Raw won. If it means getting better talent, that's very subjective. So anyway, Kyle, I probably didn't answer your question, but I guess that's the best answer I have. And I hope you enjoyed SmackDown from Baltimore. I really do. I haven't been to a show in years now either. The pandemic put us all on hold, but I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm sure we'll talk next week. All right, next one.
Hey, Matt. This is Brett. First off, I want to say, can you please read this on the Raw review? Listen to this on the Raw review. I think you've heard from me from before. I was the one that said that I would like for you to start an action figure episode. Thank you for saying that you would maybe keep me in your back pocket or whatever. Forgot what you said, but I do thank you for that. Kind of felt good. But there was a couple of things I sent you in Gmail, but you didn't get to them. And I'm recording this right before Raw airs, so I'm probably making my draft I'm gonna make my draft predictions. So, but first off, I want to say, Keith Bearcat Lee. What? They got rid of. They put in Bearcat. I don't even know what a Bearcat is. What the heck is that? I mean, the only things that I think I'm gonna like about this new character or whatever, or so far that I like about this new character is his gear. I like that he added something new to his gear. So I think that's kind of cool. Also, I mean, I think Bearcat kind of sounds a little, like, menacing for a big guy. So I mean, like, I guess I can see why they put in Bearcat, but still. And so, yeah, and then I have some predictions for the WWE draft. Sorry. I think that Becky Lynch is obviously going to go to Raw, and then Charlotte Flair and Becky are going to swap titles. I think that's what's going to happen. Maybe continue the Becky Lynch and Bianca feud. Not sure. I think that, let's see. I think if Becky Lynch is going over to Raw, Seth Rollins is obviously going over to Raw. I also think that, I think it'd be cool if Big E got drafted to Raw and then Roman got drafted. I know they were already both drafted, but I think that'd be cool if kind of.
Hey, so good to hear from you. And yeah, so obviously your predictions, a lot of them did seem to come true. Becky and Charlotte and they will end up swapping championships, no doubt. Yeah, I mean, I went over the Bearcat thing. It's very puzzling. You can just, you can audibly hear Vince McMahon backstage when the maybe a suggestion was brought up. What are we going to do with Keith when he comes back? How can he make an impact? And somebody probably said, well let's add something to his name. Let's make a splash. And Vince is like, what about Keith Bearcat Lee? You could just hear him trying to make that word better by giving it some kind of alpha male tone, the way he said it. I mean, you can just hear it, can't you? As if the way you say it makes it better. Yeah, nope, it doesn't. It still sounds ridiculous. I don't care if the meaning of Bearcat is, like world beater. Like, I mean, I don't care if it's a synonym for tank, like an army tank, or like whatever the most masculine thing that you can think of. I don't care what the meaning of it is. It sounds ridiculous. It just doesn't fit. He hasn't earned it. What is the meaning of this? It just sounds very markety, gimmicky, trying to fix something that wasn't broke. And I guarantee they won't even address it. And Keith Lee will refer to himself as a Bearcat. It's in some promo. You can guarantee yourself that. He'll say, in one of his promos that this Bearcat is, like, he'll talk in the third person, right? So look out. I mean, I can see it coming wherever the hell Keith Lee is. I mean, I really do hope all is well with him from, his health issues in the previous year. So, all right. Thank you. And let's continue on to our next voicemail.
Hey, Matt, it's Kyle from New York again. And I just finished your Raw review, and I agree with pretty much everything you said. I also think it was a pretty good draft this year. It was decent. But, yeah. Anyway, I have two questions for you. I'm wondering what your thoughts on. One, even though I know you said that Drew McIntyre and Big E is pretty much the best way to keep them both babyface, I agree. But do you think they could swerve us and maybe turn Drew McIntyre heel? I think it is possible. Maybe. I give it like a 60-40 chance. 60-40, not happening to happening, 60-40. I would give it that chance. Because I don't know. Like, I think it could happen, but I think it's more likely not going to happen. My second question is, I don't know if you saw, there was extra draft picks that happened on Raw Talk and Talking Smack. And the women's tag team division is actually really bad right now. Here's why. basically, if you haven't seen news already, from those extra draft picks on Raw Talk and Talking Smack, basically, there is not one women's tag team on either Raw or SmackDown now, except for Rhea Ripley and Nikki Ash. ASH, whatever. It's bad. At this point, just like get rid of the titles at this point. I don't even know what to say anymore with this company. But yeah, that's not good. Like the only two other remaining teams left were Shotzi Blackheart and Tegan Knox, and then Natalya and Tamina. But Tamina moved to Raw, and Knox moved to Raw, so now Shotzi and Natalya are alone on SmackDown. There's really no women's tag teams left except Rhea and Nikki, the champions, so they have no challenge. I don't know what they're gonna do. So my question is, what do you think is gonna happen? What do you think is gonna happen with the women's tag team titles? Now there's no challengers left. So yeah, anyway, my 3 minutes are up. So as always, thanks, and I'll talk to you next week.
Hey, Kyle. So I did address the women's tag team division, obviously a little earlier if you heard, so I don't want to rehash it with the women's tag team division. But your question about Drew turning heel, interesting question, because I would say that they probably aren't doing it. I'm not saying I wouldn't do it. I'm saying the signs I'm seeing from them says no. Here's why. This past week, especially, they had him and Bobby be the most gentlemanly, respectful, perfect sportsmanship that you could possibly have, or rather Big E, between Big E and Drew McIntyre. He was the most upstanding, respectful, just gentlemanly guy that you could possibly have to challenge to challenge Big E. They did everything they could to make it where he's not being a jerk about it, and he's just kindly challenging Big E, to which Big E accepted. And then they had a tag team match in which they won. I mean, so that is not an indicative of a heel turn. However, they are still swimming upstream because the fans soured on Drew McIntyre in the title picture. It hasn't been that long since he's been out of it, a few months. That's not long enough. And now he's shot back right into it. And I understand that most people believe that he's not going to win, nor should he win at Crown Jewel. It's a 0% chance, as I said earlier. Like, if you could have less than 0, that's what I would bet of Drew winning the championship for so many different big reasons. So that said, I think you could have some boos. In fact, it's Saudi Arabia, though. So Saudi Arabia is kind of a different crowd. I would guess a still mixed for both guys, or maybe just cheering both guys and just excited to see them. If it was in the States, I'd say probably boos generally for Drew and cheers for Big E. That said, they also wouldn't turn him heel because they have to have someone face Roman. They need somebody on the babyface side to challenge Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship. Now, whether they build that to Survivor Series, they build it to the Rumble, hell, maybe they wait till WrestleMania. But my thought is it is Survivor Series because they could say, remember Roman, what happened last year at Survivor Series? He could bring that up. And Drew already outright challenged him. So I think that the next in line is Drew. And again, maybe they go back to it at WrestleMania time in 6 months. But my thought is it's probably at Survivor Series, and they need a babyface to do that. So, I mean, there's really nobody else on the roster when you look at it. I mean, they've got Kofi, Xavier, Top Dollar, Isaiah Scott, Madcap Moss, Jimmy Uso. I mean, like, none of these guys make sense. It's really Drew McIntyre or no one. So, yeah, that's my thought. Thank you, Kyle. Good question. And I will hopefully talk to you next week.
Hey, man, this is Justin from Maryland. Just wanted to get my thoughts on the draft. So first, I expected Becky Lynch to go to Raw after Charlotte with SmackDown. So where do you think they're going with the title situation? Do you think that Becky Lynch will just retain at Crown Jewel, then they'll swap titles? I think that would make sense, and then you can just have Becky and Belair feud, and then Charlotte can feud with Sasha Banks. So, what do you think about that? I was kind of disappointed in the whole Drew McIntyre Big E match because I don't want to see Drew lose clean, but I guess I understand because who is Big E really going to face? I don't think there was any real good opponent that they could have had for Big E. So, other than that, I like Seth Rollins going to Raw, definitely. I feel like there's going to be a heel that's going to take the title of Big E. So, it's either going to be him or Keith Lee. But hopefully they give Seth Rollins the title run as a heel. I feel like he'll definitely have a good run. I feel like that's it. I'm definitely ready for the Roman Reigns Lesnar match. Definitely know Reigns gonna win, but the storyline is definitely interesting, and then definitely want to see where he will go at Survivor Series, probably against Big E. So that's it, man. Thanks, and I'll talk to you next week.
Hey, Justin. Thanks so much as always. Good to hear from you. Great questions and topics as always. So, as you just said that it's going to be Big E versus Roman Reigns. Yeah, I feel kind of like an idiot with my last answer because it is brand versus brand. Brand versus brand. It does not include Drew because Drew's no longer on that brand, on the opposite brand. So I don't know how you could do Roman versus Drew at Survivor Series because the fact that they're not on the opposite brands, unless they change up the format, we can all pray that they don't do this silly brand versus brand exhibition nonsense. If they do away with that and it's just a normal pay-per-view and they have a 5-on-5 elimination or something, fine. And then they could do Drew versus Roman there with Roman using and Drew using the storyline from last year when Roman beat Drew. So that's maybe how it happens. But I'm ready for Brock and Roman at Crown Jewel 2. That's going to be a whole lot of fun. It's possible Brock wins, but like you said, I think everyone's expecting Roman to retain by hook or crook. I know you're concerned about Drew getting a clean loss to Big E. I don't know if that's going to happen. Why? Because I think that you could have, if you're trying to build up Roman, or you're trying to build up Drew for Roman, you're not going to have him lose to Big E clean and then go right to Roman Reigns. You want Drew looking as strong as possible. So if there's some kind of wonky finish, now I'm not saying anyone's going to cheat to win, but there could be some interference or outside interference that costs Drew the match, but still keeps Big E looking strong where, okay, Big E gets the pinfall, but it's because of X person coming out to screw over Drew. That's how I think. Again, I could be wrong and they just do a flat out, this is our guy. We're having Big E just beat Drew clean. I hope they don't do that either because Drew McIntyre has taken enough punishment over the last few months that I don't need him again, as you said, being the guy to lose clean right now. I feel like they're just starting to get back with him. And he doesn't have to be in the title picture, but he has done some damage. The creative has done some damage to him, and it's time to repair it. So that's not how you do it. Becky retain at Crown Jewel and then swap. Yep. I mean, I talked about that a few times over the course of the show. No doubt. Becky absolutely retains and then they swap the belt. That's as simple as that. Yes. The answer is yes. I hate to be so forthright about it, but yeah, I mean, there's not much more analysis to that, but Justin, thank you. And a couple more and then I think we'll close things out.
What's up, WWE Podcast World? This is Randy, the patron from Prospect, Connecticut. Now, Matt. So, yes, okay, the Hurt Business is back together, and you want an explanation, you want to understand. See, I see it a different way. I don't see it as WWE thinking us as stupid. I see it as they're saying they're smart enough to realize they talked together, and they ended up coming back. MVP's hurt, so Bobby Lashley went to them and said sorry. Yes, they didn't tell us that, but that's what I assumed as soon as I saw it. I understand how you want to hear it. You give it time. Maybe they will eventually when they actually get on the mic. Now, as for SmackDown, great show, but Raw, I don't know if you saw Raw after, draft, that's pretty interesting, man. They split up a lot of teams. They drafted a lot of girls over to Monday night, this and that. I'm getting excited. I said that in my email. I'm getting excited. The only thing I want to know is where do you see Lacey Evans when she comes back. Where do you see her fitting in? Because I think she's had her baby already. Same thing with Ronda. Do you think Ronda will ever come back? That's my question for you today. Other than that, I think that's pretty much it. It's kind of a quick message this week. Sorry, kind of worked a lot. But can't wait to hear your responses, and thanks for doing what you guys do, and I'll talk to you later.
Mr. Randy the Patron, good to hear from you. I know we heard from you early at the beginning of the show, starting off the show, and you're the second to last voicemail. So cool deal there. Now, again, as far as the whole deal goes with not explaining the New Day, or rather the Hurt Business, I mean, I don't know why they'd wait multiple weeks to explain it, because that should be the number one question on everyone's mind. And not in a way that's like, oh, that's going to be so great when they explain it, but rather just tell us, right? Like, give us like a 30-second explanation. It shouldn't be that hard. And honestly, it doesn't, I know it's not going to be the focal point of the story, but it's an important part, because as you look at this, you just want to know, okay, well, how did they get back together? Now, again, I know that's not the point of them getting back together, and that's going to be some major storyline, and they need to really think about the reason. No, just give us something. Like you said, it could just be, oh, they spoke over social media, or they had a reconciliation, or like, fine. Like, the fact that they did it without explanation tells me that this is a kind of one-time thing back with Bobby Lashley, and then they're going to be done with it again. They're just putting them back for the convenience of having them back without using proper storyline telling of, hey, they're back because of X. That's it. And to me, it's lazy. It's lazy, and it's insulting. Honestly, I know that you don't care as much, and that's cool. I mean, that's great. I'm glad other people don't care, because that means you enjoy the product probably more than I do at times. So good stuff. Lacey Evans, where does she fit? Where the hell does Lacey Evans go when she returns? Well, let's look at the rosters. Presumably she'd be coming back as a heel. You kind of got to have her coming back as a heel, I would think. And, she was on Raw previously, I believe, right? You have Bianca Belair on Raw being the lead babyface. You have Liv Morgan as a babyface. Becky Lynch she's a heel, but this past week she trended more towards babyface. They haven't done anything with her music. She's not running down the crowd. So she's kind of back and forth. And they were chanting for Becky, as people continue to do now. Zelina Vega could go both ways. Dana Doudrop is a babyface. We have Tegan Nox, Mia Yim. I mean, Alexa Bliss is a babyface. I would honestly throw on Raw. It looks like, and again, that's as if they did this now, right? Like, I mean, maybe they do heel turns here and there, but if all remained constant, nothing changed, and all was equal here, I would throw her back on Raw. Raw certainly needs it with more time to fill. And SmackDown with Charlotte and Naomi and Sasha Banks, Shayna Baszler, Toni Storm, Shotzi Blackheart. I think they have a decent roster on SmackDown. Again, shorter amount of time to cover. So yeah, throw on Raw. That'd be my explanation. Do I ever think Ronda Rousey is going to come back? Probably. In the world of never say never, this certainly applies here. Again, Ronda Rousey is a heat magnet. She's a lightning rod. And she really left a bad taste in the mouth of fans. And I mean that in the way of after she left. She berated the company. She disrespected the company. And the business, I should say. The business of pro wrestling. The industry of professional wrestling. Where she really tore back the curtain. And I know that we all know what it's a work, but when you have people who were just in it, do it in a way that's just kind of demeaning, it's insulting to do. It's insulting to everyone that is involved in the craft. And I don't want to hear from anybody that, oh, this is just heel heat, so you want to see her get her ass kicked. No, in fact, I'd rather see somebody in an octagon actually kick her ass, because in a pro wrestling ring, it's not. It's a work, right? So I don't know. She just comes across as somebody who just needs to get her ass whooped in a real way, not in a pro wrestling way. I'm talking about an octagon. Now, am I advocating for violence against her? No, I just want to see her get her ass kicked inside of UFC. Maybe she returns there. I doubt it. But long story short, as I go on a Ronda Rousey rant, I do think she'll be back. I do. Do I think it's in 2022? Decent chance. She had her kid. She's living the life. We'll see how long she wants to play mom before she's like, all right, I'm done. This was cool. Let's go on the road for a year. And, I want to get back into wrestling. Yeah. I think 2022 is plausible. I do. Do I think anything beyond that? Yeah. I mean, like, honestly, any time from 2022 on, it might happen. And I think it would be a 1 or 2 match deal. I don't think she'd come back for a full-time year again. Not with a kid, and she knows what the business is about. I just don't think it would happen. But I want to see Ronda Rousey as a heel. She would be so much better as a heel. She's way better suited to be a heel. So that would be a lot of fun. So my prediction, yes, 2022, late 2022, maybe into WrestleMania 39. So in LA, that's my guess. All right, guys, mercifully, and I mean that respectfully, but I'm exhausted, we get to our final voicemail of the evening.
What's good? It's the Crisis. Hope everybody's having a good time. This week in wrestling has been, I have to say, the draft got it right this year. I agree with y'all. The only thing that they needed to do was let us know the pool of wrestlers that were available each night. And I think that would just absolutely, really just nailed it all the way home. Draft, completely happy with it. And there's one big reason why. And I actually tweeted this. You can go to State of Crisis on Twitter. I actually have that tweet on there. As soon as Keith Lee, because I don't say the other stupid name either, I'm honest with that. Keith Lee getting drafted to Raw. All I asked, I put out there in a tweet, I wanted to see Dominic Dijakovic, a.k.a. T-Bar, drafted to Raw as well, so that I could hopefully one time see a repeat of one of the greatest wrestling matches I have ever seen live from NXT Portland. It was Keith Lee, Dominic Dijakovic. It was absolutely amazing, and that's what I want to see. And that's what I'm looking at in the draft. What a lot of people don't see in the draft is all the tag teams got split up. Shotzi, she's on her own. New Day, they're on their own. Another one that got split up, you have Retribution. They got split up as well, which is great. And another person that got split off, Veer. I'm telling you, these new guys that got split away from other people are going to be absolutely off the hook. I think T-Bar is going to finally start finding his own, maybe go back to his actual name, Dominic Dijakovic. Veer, can't wait to see what he does. But that's really what I got. I just want to talk about the draft, because everything else, man, we need to wait 2 weeks for it all to play out, because, hey, the rosters don't go into effect, and we have that stupid no-name pay-per-view coming up that I just don't like supporting. But, hey, I'll probably watch it anyways. But, I'm just kind of sitting in idle while the creative team and WWE just spins their wheels till after Crown Jewel. But, hey, I hope you're having a good time. I'm ready to be Hayes. I'm ready to be a guest on your show. I'm ready to work. You tell me what I got to do, and I'm going to do it. Crisis. Y'all have a great time. Peace.
All right, Crisis. Good to hear from you. Great way to end the show here. And it's interesting you brought up all these tag teams, and we've been talking about them throughout the show, and the women's division and obviously the men's division. A couple of them got broken up. Sadly, the Mysterios are still together. That's a damn tragedy. But it did seem like the theme of this draft, if there's gonna be a theme, if there was such thing as a theme, and maybe this obviously was not intentional, but it could be headlined or taglined by saying the WWE tag team dissolution, right? Like the dissolving of WWE tag teams, back to a single star mentality, especially in the women's division. Again, we've talked about that many times. It's just really shocking that they have no teams other than one. I don't know how you can be champion if you're the only ones there, but I guess you can. We're witnessing it right now. And again, I know that you also mentioned Dominic Dijakovic, T-Bar, and I have not seen that match. Sadly, I've not seen that match between Keith Lee and Dominic Dijakovic. I can't even say his last name. I'm like losing my mind. Dominic, how about that? I have not seen this match. You are now going to force me to watch it because I trust your judgment that this was off the charts. So I'm going to watch that and remind myself that T-Bar should not exist, right? I think that T-Bar Mace and whole retribution thing T-Bar and Mace should just rebranded, repackaged. You could have them both go away. Just go away for a month. No one's going to care. And then you could have them repackaged as, you said, Dominic Dijakovic, and I don't know the other individual's name, but you could have them repackaged that way, and no one would blink an eye because no one gave a damn about Retribution at all. So I think that's what you could do, and I don't think that would be a bad idea. So also, if you want to get on the show, man, listen, all you got to do is fill out an application. There's a waiting period. There's a processing fee, but of course, joking. Just email the show at realwwpodcast@gmail.com or on Patreon, wherever. Just let me know what your schedule is. We are kind of filled up for the next week or two, but maybe towards the end of the month or early in November, we can get you on and we can talk Raw. We can review. I know Crown Jewel will be come and gone by then. So definitely, yeah, let's do it. I'm always interested in getting new voices on the show. It's fun. It keeps things fresh and it keeps me on my toes. So thank you so much to Crisis, to DJ Kuzmo, to the Casual Wrestling Fan, and everybody, of course, in between, with Kyle from Baltimore, Maryland. I mean, you guys are all great, and you guys make this show what it is. I really didn't think the show was going to be this long. I opened the show saying it's going to be a shorter show. I was wrong. I must have missed all the notifications for voicemails that happened this week, and so that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. I don't mind longer shows. But this is my final show for the week. I might do a news brief tomorrow. There's some news coming out that I may want to talk about, so look for that. But those are like 15, 20-minute shows. As far as the longer shows go, look out for Sunday in the Week in Review with Mr. Casual Wrestling Fan and myself. We'll be breaking down everything that happened this week. Always great with him on the show. So that is it for me tonight, guys. Thanks so much for listening. As always, give us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts. Same thing now. And consider supporting us on Apple Podcasts by going ad-free or on Patreon. Thanks, everybody. I'll talk to you next time.